now that we have created this widget and filled it out and given it its own class, this action call, now we're going to create a package to style it. Sandy said that I mentioned earlier that we'd set the widget colors in design options. And what I meant by that, Sandy, is that the Agility Nude skin has skin options. That's what I meant to say. An Agility Nude options right here. And we set sidebar font styles here. And those sidebar font styles were taking precedence over the widget style that I had created. Now, for simplicity's sake, we can just get rid of these for the time being, because obviously we're going to be creating our own widget style anyway. So back to select a font, delete that color, delete the font size, select a font, and now this what are called sidebar font styles are no longer going to apply to us. So we save the Agility Nude options, and we go back to the CSS editor and save the CSS, and now it looks like our, well, it's essentially unstyled, right? Okay, so, and we're going to create a new Agility widget style, add the package, call to action, and the reference will be action underscore call. And the selector here is going to be a little bit different. Immediately after widget, we'll put a dot, and then we'll paste the class that we used, which was action call. The reason for that is that this little class right here automatically adds this class to the same container that is named widget. And so when you have more than one class that is assigned to the same container, you string those classes together by essentially placing a dot between each class. So you started off with a dot, and then you put a dot between each class. So there's another class here, there would be another dot and another one without a space. Well, you probably aren't going to have to interact with this, at least as a beginner. If there was a space here, what that would mean is that for anything with the class of action call that is contained inside of a container called widget, right? So when there's a space, it means that this is being contained in this. However, when there is no space, what that means is that both of these things are, that this is referencing a container that has both the class widget and the class action call. And so that's what we have when we use that class. So anytime you use that little feature in the widget, you'll want to add that class directly to the CSS selector that you used here with a dot in between the classes. Okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and come over to our options then. And if we look at what we're trying to accomplish, you know, one of the things we want to do is we want our text color to be this red, and we want our heading color to be the red, and we want it to be centered in the space. We want a line all the way around it. We want a drop shadow, and let's just start with that. So if we come over to our style here and go to our widget titles first, and under font settings, we're going to set our font color as being, I've forgotten now. I think it's probably BC2. So I think that's what we'll do here right off the bat. We'll just say, we'll call it BC2 for background color 2, and then we'll see if that's not right. BC2 as our text color. And then our text align was center. And let's go ahead and specify a font size of 22 pixels with a line height of 26 pixels and a font weight of bold. And then we'll come down to our border and we'll give it a 2 pixel wide border. The border style will be solid. The border color will be our main text color, which is TC1. We're going to give it a quarter radius of 20 pixels, which means that each corner will have a rounded corner with a radius of 20 pixels. And we'll do a drop shadow, again, exactly the same as the one beside it. So 5, 5, 5, and again TC1. And let's see what it looks like. Oh, we haven't placed our reference here yet, so we need to do that. Under our widgets, let's see, we've got our footer widgets, our slider. Let's just, under typical widgets, let's go ahead and say £, and then action call. And with that, we should have a style showing up here. But we aren't, so let's just save that here. Action call, action call. Let's refresh this. Okay, so the BC2 was not right. This is our color here that we want, this bottom footer color. The BC2 wasn't right. We definitely want to specify Arial for this. And obviously we need some padding around this thing. But our drop shadow and the rest of that stuff is working fine. So let's see, what was our color for our main background? Oh, it was BC4. That's what it was. So we'll come back over to our options. Our widget titles will be BC4. Our font is going to be Arial. You know, I think we probably want a little bit of, we'll come back and deal with margin and stuff like that later. But we do need padding around that whole thing. So if we come inside of widgets and come down to padding, and I think we'll just say 20 pixels of padding all the way around. That might be more than we need, but we'll just start there. And hit save. Save our CSS. Refresh it. There we go, getting a little closer here. Now, obviously we don't quite need that much, and we want this thing to be centered. I think we can make this a little bit smaller. And if we look at that, really the whole thing wants to be Arial, not just part of it. So we'll set that to Arial. We'll make it a little bit smaller. And then this color is 888. So we're going to change that text color too. So we come back down here. We'll take our font settings and we'll make all of that Arial. we'll take our font size down to 15 pixels. We're going to take our font color to 888. I think actually we're going to make, well, let's just leave that alone for a moment. Let's set our typography to 320. And then maybe we should just go ahead and reduce our padding right off the bat here. Let's just get rid of that bottom padding for a moment. And hit save. Okay, we're getting closer. Now, I think we want this to be centered, and I think we want this to be bolder. I think what I'm going to actually do is make this an H5, and then I'm going to center this, and then give this a little bit of bottom padding or margin, little bottom margin. So we'll start off in our widgets here actually, and we're going to go ahead and center that. And we're going to go ahead and take this thing and we're going to make it an H5. Okay, let's just take that whole thing again and make it an H5. And save that. Let's see how that turned out. Oh, well, that's the finished one already. I was going to say it looks great. Okay, so that's now centered. So we want to style our H5 so it's bigger and bolder and nicer looking, and I think we'll center it too. We'll give ourselves a little bit of bottom margin for the title. So come back over here to our call to action. Come down to our H5. Let's give it a font size of 16 pixels. Let's see, let's give it a text align of center. And I guess I almost feel like it might want to be bold. And then we come back up to our titles. And we go to our margin, and let's give our bottom margin, let's just call that 20 pixels for a moment. And I think that should probably get us there. Very, very close. Really what I want to do is get this bottom to line up with that bottom. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of bottom margin here on H5. And it looks like it's maybe about 10 pixels, so that's what I'm going to do. Come back over to this, call to action, give my H5 a little bit of bottom margin. Let's call it 10 pixels. Let's see how it looks. Oh, let's see. I must not have saved it. Looks pretty good. So now we've got a call to action with a phone number that can be clicked, with a link that links off to a description. You know, we've got a nice styled thing here, and mostly all we had to do is check boxes in order to accomplish that.